Hello, I'm Sasha of Sasha Makes Cards, and welcome to this month's YouTube hop for a cherry on top crafts. The theme for this month's hop is winter fun, so I am making 2 cards this month using the Christmas Hugs stamp set from Simon Hurley. Now I know the theme is winter fun and I am using a Christmas themed stamp set, however there is a snowman in this stamp set and I thought it went pretty well with the winter fun theme. My plan was to only make 1 card, which is always the case when I end up making more than 1 card, but I was originally just going to make the 1 card, but since I want to use an unconventional color for my winter card, I want to use green. My mind immediately went to pink as well, because green and pink, of course, they're complementary colors, so they go really nice together. So I wanted to make just the same card, but one in green and one in pink. I have shared at least one other project using this stamp set before, I believe in a blog post on the Cherry blog. However, I kept it very traditionally winter. It was a blue background. During the month of December, I made quite a few cards, winter themed cards, Christmas themed cards with the blue background and the snow. So I thought it would be really fun to switch it up and do one with the green background and then one with the pink background. So that way they work nicely as a set together. Plus, my favorite color is green, so it was inevitable that I would make a winter-themed green Christmas card. And I think this snowman, and honestly just the other stamps in the stamp set, works really well with doing some fun, bright colors. Especially the snowman, though, because you can kind of get away with very minimal coloring on him, so that it's still mostly the white snow, and it goes with the white on the card, but then you can color a few of his little accents, such as his scarf, his nose even, and then you can kind of match it with the green and pink theme with the card. I started these cards by first stamping the snowman image twice onto an alcohol marker friendly cardstock using an alcohol marker friendly ink. For this I'm using the Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink. I then fussy cut the snowman out using a pair of spring assisted scissors and then colored a few of the things on each of the snowman images, one in green and one in pink, to match the Distress Oxide inks that I was going to be using for the background. Now I skipped showing the cutting. I always do because my head just ends up getting in the way. I also skipped showing the coloring. The coloring's pretty simple. For both of the snowmen, I colored the little holly berries on the hat, as well as the ribbon on the hat, the snowman's nose, the tongue, as well as the scarf. For the backgrounds, I'm using 2 different colors to ink blend each background. For the green background, I am using Mowed Lawn and then going into Twisted Citron. For the pink background, I am using Picked Raspberry and then going into Spun Sugar. I think the Distress Oxide inks that I picked out for the backgrounds go really well with the colors that I colored the snowmen. The alcohol markers I used, I'm very happy with the color match. I use this technique a lot where I create very simple gradients using 1, maybe 2 colors of Distress Oxide ink. However, I always think it turns out so well and it goes with a lot of cards, especially with winter and Christmas. If you splatter it with white, then it becomes a snowy background. I also like to splatter my cards with black ink, or black paint, occasionally, however, white usually. But I use this technique a lot, just creating very simple gradients. I typically use only 1 color of Distress Oxide ink and fade it out to white. However, as I mentioned, I really like the color match I got with the oxide inks and the alcohol markers I used. I think using the 2 oxide inks for this project worked really well. Whenever I'm creating my backgrounds or whenever I'm ink blending a background, I always put a piece of tape on the inside of my card to hold it in place. It's nothing special. I just use painter's tape that I get from the dollar store. I find I use it all the time in my videos. I use it in all of my projects. I've had really good luck with it not ripping the paper. Of course, you just don't tear it off quickly, just tear it off slowly, and I've not had any problems. And you can get a lot of it for quite cheap. So I always like to use just a little piece of tape on the inside. However, one thing I will say is when you're ink blending, if you're not careful about the placement of your tape or the placement of whatever you're placing on top of your background, the ink may actually show the tape behind it. So that's why I placed it a little bit lower on the card where it was going to be covered. So that's the only thing you have to worry about when using tape and ink blending. However, it helps keep it in place, so I rather have the tape and deal with a few little marks showing where the tape was. For splattering the background, I used the Spellbinders Splatter White Opaque Watercolor Bleed Proof paint. I've been really enjoying using this paint recently. All I did to splatter the background was scoop a little bit of it out using a paintbrush and put it onto my mixed media mat or my mixed media grip mat. I'm not exactly sure what to call it, that I had placed on my glass mat, sprayed it with a little bit of water, and then splattered it onto the cards using a fan brush. To finish off the background, I wanted to add some little hills of snow at the bottom of the card. To do this, I took a pre-cut card panel that I had that measures the same size as my A2 card, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I had to think about that. And I just used my scissors and cut very simple waves. Now, since this is just snow, it really doesn't have to look like much. Just cutting the waves in the cardstock, it looks like snow. Especially if you put the snowman on top, it just kind of looks like I used a die, which is quite nice. Usually I would use a die for these kinds of things. However, this was so easy, and I actually quite like how it looks. So, it worked out pretty well. For both the pink and the green card, I cut 2 hills of snow for each so that they would overlap. And then I just used some Barely Art liquid adhesive to glue the snow hills onto each of the cards. I then brought back out the Christmas Hugs stamp set to stamp the sentiment onto each card. For both cards, I just decided to use the same sentiment, "You Melt My Heart." Of course, you can mix and match, but I just decided to use the same one. I thought it was cute, and plus the cards were already so matchy that I just wanted to keep it matchy-matchy. I used the same ink as I used earlier, the Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink, and stamped it onto the bottom of the card onto the snowy hills that I just glued on. After I stamped the sentiment onto both cards, to finish everything off, I used the Barely Art liquid adhesive glue to glue the snowman onto each card. Of course, the green snowman goes onto the green card, and the pink snowman goes onto the pink card. When I was gluing on the green snowman, I accidentally dropped them. I was turning it around after putting the glue on the back of them, and then I dropped them, and then it got some glue on the card. I did cut that out because it was just me staring at it for a few seconds, wondering how the heck I had dropped it. I did try to use a sand eraser to get rid of some of the glue. I think some of it still showed through, but it doesn't show up as much as I thought it would. I also normally use an adhesive eraser that I have, but I've been kind of rearranging my workspace a little bit recently, and I've seemed to have misplaced it. So I will have to find it wherever it is for the next time that I inevitably drop something and get glue on it again. And that is the completed project. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out the description for a complete list of all the design team members participating in this month's hop, as well as to hop along for a chance to win a $25 gift card to shop at a Cherry on Top Crafts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.